How's it going? It's Dave here from lansingroad.ie, and this is the Green Machine Weekly Podcast. And as always, we've got Nick there with a... Is that a new Twitter handle, is it?
Yeah. It's very IRA, really, isn't it?
Yeah, well, that's a way to start.
We're probably not allowed to say that.
No, I'm always talking about war, so I suppose you can get an odd little reference in there. Sorry, we are late. We were supposed to be on 8:30, but Nick just managed to fire up his Atari 2600 of a computer there. So we do apologize.
So this is what we do get people. If you're listening back on the podcast, you're not going to be able to see this because this is a live that we're doing. But I mean, I'm holding up my Toshiba from 2008, which is somehow still going. And I think it finally gave up the ghost tonight, so that's why we were delayed. Thankfully, I have a work computer for my real job, so
yeah,
I don't know why I didn't use it in the first place. But
look,
we live and learn, don't we?
Yeah, you need a new pet hamster to get that little baby going. So we're going to talk about a number of things. A very controversial subject. We're going to talk about Robbie Keane. We're going to talk about the women's team. Something I posted and got hammered over actually with the women's team and the Robbie Keane thing as well, sure. But we're going to talk about all of that. And please remember, this is your podcast as well. Leave a comment and get involved. We will read them as long as they're tasteful, of course. And if you Nick, you didn't have to. Thank you so much. Nick does these things before I go in. You're a star, Nick. Thank you very much.
No worries, David. Anytime.
We'll just leave that up there. Just also a little bit of inventory. I'm poor, as most of you that know me know me. So buy my stuff, please. It's my birthday coming up, and we see the viewers going down already. It's my birthday coming up. I need food. I need a pizza. And yeah, I'm just going to leave that there. You won't mind, Nick, if I just leave the... Oh, that's actually the wrong one. We're getting off to a cracking start. Where are we? That's the one we need.
Yeah, leave it up for the whole episode.
I'm just going to leave that up there, folks. So just if you want, your £10 will ensure I get a pizza.
Don't forget, anyone listening back as well, lansingroad.ie/shop to feed David.
Yeah,
I'm just expecting REM to come on in the background and. A picture of you kind of half in the nip, with your ribs showing.
Well, not ribs, more like belly. Lockdown lumber, if I'm honest, Nick.
We've broken a lot of rules already in the first couple of minutes, haven't we?
We have, haven't we? Thank God we don't have any standards and practices coming after us. Please, if you are listening to this, do give us a follow, obviously, the Facebook page, the JM Podcast. And if you wouldn't mind giving us a face there on lansingroad.ie, obviously our Facebook. Right. Enough. We have a comment. Brandon for Tipperary here. Was Troy Parrott right to turn down and move to final? Wow, we haven't even gotten to a first topic. Nick, this came up yesterday. We put it up here. And thank you very much for the question, Brendan. Brendan Keeshan. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Do you think he was right to turn down a move to Feyenoord? Apparently he's waiting for a championship club and Tottenham want him playing in the championship, but I mean, I don't see why he turned down Feyenoord, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I had a bit of a discussion with this. Just anyone, just to plug Air Guide, we have a Patreon. Martin, of course, is also a member, so I think it's okay to plug them, but we were having a little discussion just on our Telegram group, and a couple of people raised the point that Spurs, it's more so Spurs that don't actually want him going to Feyenoord as opposed to Troy Parrott himself. Now, if I was Troy Parrott, I'd be looking at, say, if you look at a lot of strikers in Holland, and if you look at the amount of goals that they rack up, and then they go back to England, if you look at, was it Vincent Janssen and who's the other guy, Alfonso Alves back in the day with Middlesbrough, you get these goal scoring machines in the Netherlands, don't you? And then they go to the Premier League or they go to Germany or wherever, and the goals kind of dry up. And I kind of think for Parrott now, I think he gets an awful lot of unfair observations on his game and on his goal scoring record, because he played very deep for Ipswich. I think he scored 2 goals for Ipswich on loan there. And I mean, he was playing as a number 10. He wasn't really playing as a centre forward. He was playing very withdrawn. And at Millwall, he was playing out on the left. So I think if he was to go to Holland and play as a centre forward for whatever 6 months for a full season, and if he got a few goals, I think it would do his confidence and his development a huge amount of good. Now, as I said, it could be more a call that Spurs want him a little bit closer to home. He's a young guy. If you look at Jack Byrne, who was it that he went to? Was it I can't even remember the team. Camber that Jack Byrne went to when he was around the same age. He was actually younger than Troy Parrott, I think, at the time. And Byrne went over on loan from City, and he absolutely tore it up. And he was subsequently getting linked with Ajax and PSV and some of the bigger Dutch clubs. And then he was getting linked with the likes of Newcastle and a few teams back in England. And then when he got back to England with City, he went to Blackburn and really, really struggled. Now, I think a lot of that was to do with other bits and pieces that were going on. Now, if you look at the two lads, there are these little comparisons, wonder kids at big clubs. I know City and Spurs are maybe on a different level, but I think going to a club like Feyenoord, I think they're in Europe, as far as I know. Like, it's all about experience, isn't it, at that age? And you can get experience with a big club. Like, they're not the Feyenoord of whatever 20 years ago that were getting to UEFA Cup finals. But they're certainly a big club. They play in a big stadium. They have a big following. They have a lot of international players playing for them. So he can either go there and rack up the experience, or he can go to the Championship and run the risk of maybe having another experience like he did with Millwall, getting played out of position, being in and out of the team. It just depends. But at the end of the day, his aim is probably to play in England and to probably play for Spurs, and if not, play for another Premier League team. So maybe he wants to be conditioned to the English game, and maybe that's the way the Spurs are looking at it. But at the same time, someone in the Aragoid Telegram did kind of raise the point that the Harry Kane situation. Now, I don't think he's gone anywhere. I don't think he's gone to Man City, but they're probably saying, they haven't got much depth up front. Then they have a striker on loan from Benfica, and he's gone back already. So they don't really have many forwards at the moment. So that could be another reason why he hasn't gone out immediately. But I think it would have been an interesting move. I think he would have developed. I think he would have learned a huge amount. But if he's holding out for the Championship, then hopefully it turns out to be a gamble that works out.
I would reckon maybe the new manager obviously wants to give him a chance. Obviously, he's not Jose. He will give young Irish players a chance as well. So it's probably a bit of that as well. He was on the bench tonight in their preseason friendly, so we'll see how he gets on. We'll keep an update as we go on, if we get a chance to anyway. So we hope that answered your question, Brendan. Was he right to go down? Did you actually answer his question, Nick? Do you think he was right to stay or no?
Was he right?
Yes or no?
No, I'm sitting on the fence a bit with this one. I think he should have gone. I think it would have been an interesting move.
I think so too. Yeah.
I think, as I said, I think he would have learned a lot. Feyenoord's a huge club. Like, they're not. When I say big club, I don't mean like they're currently a giant of European football. But in terms of their fan base, in terms of their history, they're a big club, But at the same time, we saw Liam Kelly go over there, didn't we? Another former Irish youth, and it immediately didn't work out. David Connolly played for them, so there is a bit of an Irish link.
And then he was loaned out to Feeder Club Excelsior, so there's a certain there's an Irish connection of failure as well. So
I remember we Barry Maguire on the show around this time last year, who of course played for Holland and Ireland underage, and he said that when he thought of Irish football, now naturally, his dad is from Dublin, so he knew Roy Keane and a lot of Irish players. But he said one of the first memories of Irish football that he had was David Connolly playing for Feyenoord. So I think he could have gone. As I said, that league, as I mentioned, the likes of Vincent Janssen, who went to Spurs and scored a lot of goals for, I think it was Alkmaar. I could be wrong on that, but I think it was Alkmaar. Then he went to Spurs, scored maybe 1 or 2 goals. It shows that you can get goals in Holland and not necessarily translate that to a bigger league. So I think experience-wise, it would have been a good one.
I have to agree with Carl there. Definitely a big fan of the podcast there. First team football at a top flight team is surely better than a championship team. I'd go with that.
I agree, yeah.
And Brendan, cheers, guys. Hope he gets fair treatment if he remains in England. Thank you very much, Brendan. Obviously, guys, keep those. Cheers, Brendan. Keep those questions coming in. Right, let's get into it. Now, this is going to annoy a lot of people. I wrote an article about this. It's Robbie Keane, Irish legend, no doubt. Seems to be a little polarizing amongst the Irish fans. And you think, why? Why is he? And then you have the current contract situation. So, Robbie Keane, there he is there. For those of you without the benefit of the live stream, we have a picture of Robbie Keane in his coaching gear with
and he actually hasn't got his hands in his pockets or holding a coffee.
A cup of coffee. He actually looks like he's doing something there.
He's earning the few bob there, isn't he?
Yeah, he's got a training cone looking very important. Now you see the viewership has gone up there, so we better get cracking on it. So basically what it is, during the week at the AGM, relatively new FAI CEO Jonathan Hill has come out and apologized to Robbie Keane. Now, obviously we all know Robbie Keane is currently earning 250 grand per annum. At the total cost of £1 million because he's on a 4-year contract, which overlapped. He was brought on to help out Mick McCarthy. What he did, I have no idea during that time. Mick didn't really want him, from what I could tell. He had Terry Connor. And then Stephen Kenny just didn't want Robbie Keane. So he ended up just basically sitting at home doing nothing. Now, Nick, I get it. If you're a CEO, you play a bit of politics, right? You know, you do the politics, you do the manners, you do all that kind of stuff. So I understand that you want as many people in the tent pissing out as you want outside pissing in, for want of a better phrase. So I understand him turning around. If he was to turn around and say to Robbie Keane, "Look, Robbie, we apologize because we probably didn't, the contract situation was a bit of a mess or whatever. We probably have to handle it on our end as well as we should have." I sort of get that. But where I might have the problem with, and see what you think, is that if he's turning around and saying, "Sorry, Robbie, about this. Oh, by the way, you were completely immaculate throughout this whole situation. You've behaved immensely." I'd have an issue with that. What say you?
Yeah, well, firstly, I mean, nothing hugely against Robbie Keane. I've met the guy a couple of times. He's an absolute gentleman, an Irish legend. But then it does come to this situation, and it's a sticky one, isn't it? Now, my understanding of this apology is how the FAI kind of handled it, and I think it's more the idea of how they communicated with Keane, because he was kind of left in the lurch a little bit, and he can't. At the end of the day, he can't go picking the role. Now, I know he rang up Mick McCarthy and said, "Can I work for you?" But Mick McCarthy didn't have to say yes to him, and he did put himself out there. And yes, possibly he could go and he could suggest roles that he might be able to take up within the FAI, whether that be as a scout. He was doing the technical advisor role with UEFA, wasn't he? So it just shows that he's perfect as a scout. Say like what Frank Stapleton did in the last couple of regimes. So he goes off and scouts the opposition, or goes off and scouts. Yeah, last couple of decades, or goes off and scouts different opposition. Yeah. There's been this argument that he should come in and coach the strikers like Steve Holland does for England. Or not Steve Holland, Alan Russell does for England, a specified striker coach, or like Teddy Sheringham did for West Ham years ago. I don't necessarily agree with that either, because that is a specialist role, and Robbie Keane has a whatever UFA, so it's not necessarily going to transfer. The whole situation itself, look, we've spoken about this at length. Funnily enough, I discussed this with my mum, who has no idea about football, and she said, "Well, if you were in a job and your contract overlapped and you were getting that amount of money and you had financial control or financial advisors, they would be telling you to hang on to that. They wouldn't be telling you to get rid of it, because whether he's a wealthy man or not, he's still entitled to that contract and he's still entitled to that payment. Morally and ethically, is that the right thing to do? Probably not. But in the general crux of it, he's well within his rights to actually see out that contract.
He hasn't done anything wrong. Okay, he hasn't done anything wrong. He was given a contract, and that's one of the comments there. Paddy Dandy, the FAI have to honour the contractual obligations. People need to stop blaming King. Yes, I get that, and no, that is true. Robbie Keane hasn't done anything wrong here, most definitely. And I've met Robbie as well. I think he's a gentleman. I think he's a legend of a player. Definitely one of the all-time greats for Ireland. But he's clearly, unless there's financial issues, right, that I don't know about. He's clearly a wealthy man. And fair play to him. He's carved out a great career. I've no issue with that. Like, he's earned his money. Fantastic. However, Irish football's in the shit at the moment. Severely in the shit at the moment. And one of the comments I saw when I wrote that article, that piece, and I gave my say, and I just said that, Robbie Keane should have torn up that contract and walked away gracefully with his head held high. One of the comments on that, one of the many comments on that was, Robbie Keane owes football in Ireland nothing. I disagree with that. I think he owes everything to Irish football. who would Robbie Keane be without Irish football? You know, so he knows, in my opinion, he knows everything to Irish football. Now, if you don't want to give that money back to the FAI, for example, you could donate that to your local club. Yeah. You could donate that to a load of clubs around Dublin. You could give it back. Now, whether he's done that or not, I don't know. Maybe he has, but it hasn't been made. If he has, I would really hope he would actually come out and publicly just say it. We don't like celebrities kind of blowing their own trumpet, but this would actually clear up a lot of that nonsense.
It would probably soften the blow, you know.
Blow.
And we made that suggestion. Like, we weren't telling him what to do with his money, but a few months back we said, you know, he mightn't be judged as much on it because, as we said, he's well within his rights to honor this, and he's well within his rights to collect that money. But then, like, I think I saw a couple of, I don't know if it was, it mightn't have been your article, Dave, but it might have been another article, and a few people were saying, well, Keane and Delaney, it's well known that they were good buddies. And it's this whole element of, you know, the old FAI. And people are blaming the old FAI for this whole situation, which is completely true and which is completely accurate. But there's also this whole argument. I can't remember exactly what the comment was, or maybe it was part of an article. I can't remember. But people were saying, well, then Keane, this FAI that we're saying, you know, I know Jonathan Hill has come in and a lot of new faces have come into the FAI, and a lot of the old guard have either stepped away or they've been kind of pushed out. But they're kind of saying, well, Keane taking this contract and you know, being in that inner circle of Delaney, maybe he represents that old FAI, you know, and even though we look at Robbie Keane with such positivity, which we should, look at his record, look at some of the moments and the memories he's given us, but he is possibly representing some of the ethos and some of the carry-on that was going on in that old FAI that we want to rid of, with these kind of deals and with these kind of you know, financial irregularities, or this financial madness that we're seeing. So, as well as the whole financial impact that it's going to have on grassroots football and international football as a whole, there's also this kind of, you know, unspoken issue that maybe Keane is actually carrying on. Now, I'm not saying he is, I'm just saying what I've seen from that other source, but maybe he is carrying on a tradition from the FAI that we want to rid of so badly in the last couple of months or the last couple of years.
Expensive mistakes. Yeah, I mean, well, Paddy Danley has just followed up on his, you know, his original statement. I think the real question needs to be asked about the FAI paying off Delaney a huge sum of money and paying McCarthy's up early. Well, Paddy, they had to pay off John Delaney legally. Now, they had to. You know, I'm not an apologist for the FAI at all, but you know, we got to call what's fair. So they had to pay up that amount legally, otherwise they would have tied their arseholes up in court for years and years and years legally. Now, whether we find out that maybe something illegal has happened with John Delaney and he has to maybe pay money back because he owes it to the FAI, because they found that has to be decided in a court of law, and that might take up anywhere within the next 10 years. That's just a slow process of justice, and trust me, we're all frustrated about that. But the FAI, I think they were entitled to pay him something like €2 million, and they ended up paying him like 400,000 or something like that. So they had to do that just to get him off the books, move him to the side, and then proceed later on. And that's obviously up to the government. Now, McCarthy, I don't think McCarthy wasn't paid off early. His contract actually did go, didn't it? It actually,
yeah, his contract expired. He left maybe 2 or 3 months beforehand.
I think he gave him the bonus, didn't he? If they qualified, he would get the bonus for it.
Yeah, if they qualified, the contract would have been extended by a number of months, and he would have been paid an extra amount of money. So, you know, it was actually cheaper to, you know, would have been cheaper to actually let him go when they did. So I mean, that's
so yeah. And that's another thing.
But I get what he means there. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, pertinent questions, and do certainly keep them coming, folks. Thank you, Paddy, for your feedback there as well and your questions. But I mean, like, I think as well, a lot of people are excusing Keane because they're saying, you know. Actually, Carl has another one here. Is Robbie Keane a victim of the Saipan situation? I.e., does he feel let down by losing Ireland's best player and a greatest chance of progress in world football and displaying CFI? Just putting that out there. Do you think Robbie Keane's a victim of the Saipan situation, Nick?
Don't know. I mean, Robbie Keane came out very well from the World Cup. So I don't know. That's a tough one to answer, Carl. Difficult, but I mean, him and Delaney were good friends. I mean, like, I think Damien Duff was certainly a victim of Saipan because, he ultimately stepped away, didn't he, because of the straw that broke the camel's back from the FAI. And even before he took the job at Ireland, he was given out about the FAI. So, I mean, Keane approached the FAI about coming in. So I think if he had such qualms against them, he wouldn't have bothered, unless there was a payday, which there was. But John Delaney, but I think with Delaney, we've kind of spoken about this. Bream would have touched on this a couple of months ago during one of the episodes. But I mean, Delaney did have that habit of getting into the inner circle of Irish football, and Keane was
legends,
and Keane was one of those players. So I think if he was so pissed off about Saipan and the other failings of the FAI, I don't think he would have approached them for a job. I don't think this is a way of him saying screw you FAI for Saipan, or screw you for all these mishaps. I'm gonna see this money out and ride into the sunset. As we said, all this money could be donated to charity. We said it should be donated to the to frontline workers and get them a few tickets for matches, or pay for a couple of season tickets or something like that. But I mean, but I mean, if I think anyone who has any interest in Irish football, it's not about revenge. It's about trying to actually rectify things, and it's trying to get things back on track. And by scooping $250,000 a year, he's going to do the complete opposite. Like it's going to have a detrimental effect.
And I think that gets what disturbs me as well, Nick, looking at the comments, is that people are saying, FAI, they deserve what they get, fuck them, No, that's not the right attitude, okay? That deal was made by a man who, his tenureship with the FAI went hand in hand with kamikaze economics. He pissed money away, almost literally, allegedly, in case he's listening and he tries to sue us. Definitely won't afford a pizza then. But he basically, that was a crazy situation. Never should have happened, okay? And I said it before, Robbie wanted to get involved. Now, we should have legends involved, right? In different capacities that they are suited to. Obviously, Duff was a very promising coach. We saw that at Celtic. They really missed him. And now he's kind of, and he walked out. Robbie Keane, as a coach, I don't know. We saw him at Middlesbrough. It didn't go particularly well there. We saw him at Ireland. He did look very, very similar to the David Beckham situation in World Cup 2010, where he just was kind of a bit of a cheerleader. I don't know what he did. Maybe being unfair. I don't know. John Delaney got him in. It was his decision to overlap into the Kenny era. Obviously didn't speak to Stephen Kenny about it. Mick McCarthy has every right to use Robbie Keane any way he sees fit. And also Stephen Kenny has every right to use Robbie Keane or not use him where he sees fit. And a lot of people are saying that maybe, he could do it, Robbie Keane, because the Stephen Kenny era now is kind of, some people say it's failing. Some people will say it's stuttering. Some people will say it's kind of going the way we'd expect it to, because there's a massive rebuilding job. I think as well, David, I mean, there's this whole assumption that because he was an unbelievable player, he's going to make an unbelievable coach. Jose Mourinho never played at a high level, and I know he's had a serious capitulation in the last several years. But I mean, he's one of the most successful coaches of all time. A friend of mine, I won't name him, but he's worked as a scout in the UK, and we're probably getting him on the show soon, but I don't want to mention him. But just he was working as a scout for Tranmere in the late 90s. And he worked under John Aldridge, and he himself was coaching a Leinster Senior League team, and he was asking about coaching centre forwards, and he said, as an unbelievable centre forward, how do you coach your strikers to time their runs and so on? And John Aldridge said, I don't know. Like, apparently his response was just, I don't know. He said they just kind of do it, or we just do drills. So I mean, and even like, I mean, I don't want to tear into Robbie. Well, it's not really personally, but if you look at him and Duffer doing punditry, it's chalk and cheese. And now punditry and coaching and playing are three completely different things. But you look at even, I might be going off on a tangent here, but you look at Rio Ferdinand saying that he wanted to be the director of football at Manchester United. I mean, it's a similar kind of thing. It's a similar type of delusion. Now, Robbie, from what I saw, and as I said, I've nothing against anyone. I don't really care. I love Robbie Keane as a player,
but it's my, it's my team and it's our team, and I want what's for the best for our team. And even, Anthony Barry, that was a left field decision, but I think it's going to work out long term. But anytime I saw Robbie Keane live at matches, or even if you Google Robbie Keane coaching, like, it's pictures of him with his hands in his pocket. It's pictures of him with copies. I don't remember what game I was at. I think it could have been the Swiss game, and he was having a kickabout with one of the security men. Well, I think it was him. Could have been someone else, but he was having a kickabout with like a security man trying to nutmeg him. Now, if I'm completely wrong on that, I apologize, but I'm pretty sure that happened, if my memory serves me correctly. So if you're looking at professionalism, and if you're looking at, say, if you're comparing him to, say, Damien Duff, if you're comparing him to Anthony Barry, I give out a lot about Keith Andrews, but I think he's shown nothing but professionalism since coming into a coaching capacity. So the whole player translation thing, it doesn't always work out. And I mean, look at the amount of amazing players who haven't made it as managers, and look at the amount of mediocre players who have made it as managers. So I don't think that we can make excuses for him retrospectively. We have to focus on the present. We have to focus on the future, really. Yeah.
And I think people as well have to remember this decision. I sort of lost train of thought, actually, but this deal was made by the old FAI. And it doesn't mean that we should be holding new FAI accountable. I mean, I got into a bit of a tete-a-tete with Gareth Farley, former Bows player, isn't he? Former Bows Villa.
Player manager
in Ireland International. And he's coming out. I haven't got an issue with Gareth Farley. I don't want to get into an argument with him. But he was kind of saying, like, he's kind of putting like a lot of very negative stuff about, the FAI. Now they're talking, Steve McKennie said that they're looking to peak for the next qualifiers. These excuses. Well, that's not an excuse. Anyone who thought otherwise, anyone who thought we were going to peak during these World Cup qualifiers were off their fucking head. There was no way it was going to happen. It was always going to be the next campaigns, building, tearing it all down and starting up again, which, we're doing. We've had issues. Obviously, the loss to Luxembourg. Some performances haven't been great. And, but we're getting the COVID situation, that sort of stuff. They're not excuses. That's what's happened.
They're factors as opposed to excuses, really.
Massive factors. And then, of course, he was saying that the FAI now are looking for, I think, another 30 million from the government to start setting up these schemes and all this kind of stuff. And Gareth Farley was saying, they only were looking for 17 million. Now, all of a sudden, it's 30 million. Well, maybe they should be looking for 30 million. They're not going to get 30 million, obviously. Listen, you want 20 million, you ask for 40, don't you? That's the kind of thing, when you go to negotiations. And I just think a lot of people are booting the FAI around, and they're kind of holding them. They're having a go at them over stuff that was done in the past. Now, listen, anyone who listens to, and yet again, I'm not an apologist for the FAI, right? We do a little bit of work with the FAI, and from what I can see, there's some good things happening there. If you want to hear about some of the absolute nonsense that's gone on within the organization in the past, just listen to our Manager Mondays. The way, and we talk about all of that sort of stuff. And I could give you a litany of things that they've done. But, it gets to a point, Nick, where you have to move on a bit and think, right, give these guys a chance.
It has to be what's best for Irish football.
Yeah, and 250 grand going to a millionaire, from what I'm aware of, and that probably sounds personal, don't mean it to be personal, but going to a guy who's clearly, I'd imagine, is quite wealthy, they don't need that. He should have torn up the contract and said, look, you know what? I'm not happy about this, but I'm going to be the bigger man. Take it back.
It's more that he hasn't done anything in the interim, because now, from what I could be completely off the mark here, but from what I gathered from those quotes from Jonathan Hill was that Keane was trying to get in touch with the FAI to rectify not the contract, but the situation, to see what his role was. And I think and I think that ship had sailed with the senior job, and that's completely fair enough. I mean, I think Kenny brought in a fairly solid team. He brought in Andrews, who I don't rate, but he trusts, and he brought in Damien Duff. And he brought in Damien Duff, who was one of the highest rated coaches up in Scotland. Since has gone, and he's brought in Anthony Barry, who's just won the Champions League. So I think that is completely justified. I would take the two of them over Robbie Keane all day. However, it's what does Keane, as I said, Keane could have been pushing for this himself, but where does Keane slot in on 250 million? Like, there's not a lot of jobs in Ireland that would justify that wage, but sitting on your hole doesn't do it. So, like, for example, I work in a school. Could he have gone into schools and delivered talks? Could he gone and delivered whatever camps, that kind of thing? Could he just gone and observed or done some kind of consultancy with the underage teams? He hasn't been seen anywhere. He's been seen with Shamrock Rovers more then he's been seen with the FAI. And for all we know, he has been doing stuff behind the scenes. And as I said, he was asked to go on that UEFA advisory panel or the observation panel.
Yeah. He said he was quite impressed by him, wasn't he?
So they see something in him. It mightn't necessarily be as a manager, as a coach, but certainly in the kind of technical or the development side of the game, there could be a place for him. Now, I don't know if we want to touch on this today, Dave, because obviously in our WhatsApp group with Martin, we had a little conspiracy theory, didn't we, about what that contract could shape into. I don't know if we want to talk about that today.
Yeah, probably not. But if you're listening anyway, we're gonna do podcasts. Actually, when we get off the air here, we're gonna record a podcast. Probably be out tomorrow. That one about our little conspiracy theory, what we think is going on at the FAI. When are we going to do that, Nick? Are we going to do it tonight? Martin's not here.
We had other things planned, didn't we? But we'll work it out when we come out. But
we'll get see. We'll see.
I'd say in the next week or so, you'll get what we think is actually going to happen. We basically us being cryptic and predicting the future. And to be honest, I don't think we're going to be far off. But look, hopefully we are.
Jesus Christ, I hope we are. Well, anyway, so that is the Robbie Keys situation. We'll leave it there because I don't think this one's going away. It's like you just can't get rid of it. But listen, thanks for those comments there, guys. Please have your say, leave a comment, get involved. We'll read them up on here. The next subject, right? So, Nick, the women's national team are going. Well, there are talks to have basically equal pay for the men's players and the women's players. Something that the English team have done for the last couple of years. I believe, and basically, as personally, I was happy about it. I wrote an article about it, a little bit there, and I got, well, I didn't, but they got lashed out of it, or the joy was short lived, and I did a little bit of research on this. So a lot of people were turning around and they were saying, "Oh, well, women's football doesn't generate as much revenue as men's football." Blah 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 blah. Okay. Although at the moment, no football generates any crowd revenue at the moment because it's all behind closed doors. But I did a bit of research. So the men basically get paid $2,500, €2,500 per game. They don't really need it. I think it's a legal thing. I think you have to pay your players. It's a FIFA rule or something along those lines. But if someone out there listening knows, please put it in the comments. We'll read them out.
There is some kind of scale, and that goes for qualification for tournaments as well. I mean, there is a limit. Yeah, there is a limit of something that you do have to play your players because they are professional. Yeah.
So you have to pay. That's just the way it is. Some people might not agree with that. And the women's. So the men's get paid $2,500 per match, and the women get paid around €500. Now, I think some people thought it was like, they're on a stupendous amount of money. I mean, it's $2,500. Most of the Irish lads probably wouldn't cash that in. They'd probably just sort of donate. A lot of them go to charities and stuff like that, or whatever. Now, obviously, the women, a lot of those guys are wealthy. Not having a go, that's just the way it is. And the women's players wouldn't be as wealthy because the women's game in Ireland and domestically and wherever they play all over the place, actually, Italy, England, here, the money wouldn't be there. But however, a lot of them aren't fully professional either. So that $2,500 per match could be the difference between those folks actually playing for Ireland and not. So for me, Nick, I think it's good. It's not really going to take a massive amount out of the FAI coffers as stretched as they are. And I just think it actually do more good than bad. I just don't understand why people are so mean about it.
Well, firstly, I don't think you should get paid to play international football, but that's a completely different argument.
Yeah, no, look, if you're not professional, like if you're not fully professional, they're not fully professional.
Yeah, look, I mean, if you look at the way that the girls have been treated in the last decade or two, I know we'd see Ronan on a few weeks ago, and I mean, people don't understand the impact that she had on Irish women's football in this country. Like it's incredible to think that we have an Irish person with that ability to actually grow a game in this country. You know, it's and people will never even, you know, kind of feedback we got from that episode, I don't think people will ever appreciate that, and more out of ignorance more than anything. But look, the way that these girls have been treated, and I think we're onto a bit of a golden generation here with the Irish team. I know they're not in a good run or anything, but there's some serious talent coming through, and there's some serious talent already there. And then there's some girls who've been there for the last 15 years who are still only in their late 20s. If like there is that argument of so Olivia O'Toole got hardly anything, best Irish player in my opinion. Olivia O'Toole played in a very different era, unbelievable player, probably the greatest Irish women's player ever.
Is that a relative?
Well, she played in a different time. I mean, no one got as much like Premier League players didn't get the same money they did when Olivia O'Toole was playing. But no, unbelievable player.
Are you a relative, David, of Olivia? I see you've got the same surname there, so I'm just wondering. Sorry.
Yeah, but no, I mean, look, I think, yeah, there's the whole idea of revenue from TV, revenue from crowds, and quality and so on. But you know, it's a difficult one, isn't it? I mean, I think they should be getting a few bob. I mean, they're not like Premier League players. They're not getting, you know, a minimum of 50 grand a week. Yes, cousin, super, great to hear from you, David. Yeah, great to hear from you. Yeah, it's you know, they're not making that amount of money. You know, I don't know exactly how much they're making, but if they're making 20 grand a week, they're doing, now that's an unbelievable amount of money, but they're doing really, really well. It's look, it's a difficult one. I think they should be given any finances that they can to, first of all, get their gear, because that was something that they weren't even getting, and then on top of that, they should be getting something for the honor of it, to supplement what they're getting for their clubs, because they're very talented girls. They get a huge amount of abuse, which is disgusting. And look, that's it's a cultural thing. I like, that's an argument for a completely different day. But
we were getting comments on the page there saying, "Oh, you know what, they should be back in the kitchen and all this kind of stuff." I was like, really?
Yeah, well, they wouldn't say that to their face, would they? Or they wouldn't say that to our faces. So, you know, I think taking those comments with a pinch of salt is the best approach. Look, I mean, as I said, they deserve that extra few bob, because they're not making it with their clubs. And if you think about it, it's difficult. It still is difficult to break into the professional game, men or women's. And you know, they're not making as much. And a lot of them, they do rely on that. Because imagine trying to balance being a semi-professional footballer with a full-time job or a part-time job. I know a lot of League of Ireland players do it, but that is a very, very difficult thing to do. And something that, you know, you think the women's game would have moved out of by now, but unfortunately it can't, because of things like, you know, pay disparity and so on. Look, it's a difficult one. I'm not an economist and so on. Like, as I said, if you were to do it on revenue, then the men are naturally going to bring in that bit more. But at the end of the day, these girls are representing their country. If that extra few bob, you know, helps with their development and helps them to maybe live a bit more comfortably and improve their game, then, you know, give it to them. You know, give it to them.
I agree. Obviously, I wrote an article about it. No, I definitely agree. I mean, at the end of the day, $2.5 grand is nothing really to most of the Irish lads.
But I think even to put it into context, like, they weren't even getting gear. Like, I think they were being asked to share the gear with the under 21s or something.
You mean football gear, not a different type of gear now. Yeah, you're from the north side of Dublin, Nick.
Getting changed in you know, hotel bathrooms and stuff like that for game. Like, it's like, that is despicable. Now, I know that's a different argument. That's not fully to do with the the wages.
No, King didn't think it was too good for them.
Yeah, I know. But that shows it again. That's another folly of the FAI, and that isn't even to do with the wages. That's actually to do with the resources. So if they can go from being horribly under resourced to actually getting paid the same amount as the men's team, then all power to them. They deserve it. They deserve it. They're great girls. Like, they're you know, and I don't think, like, I can guarantee a lot of people, the kitchen jokes and so on aside, like, that's, you know, that's a different level. But the people who are kind of criticizing it, who are very against it, I can guarantee you they've never watched a women's national team game. You know, they're super. And even some of the girls, I know like they get a huge amount of abuse. There's one in particular I don't particularly like on punditry, but some of those girls in the punditry are, they're super. They're a credit to us. They really are a credit to us. There's far worse people out there, and they're making more money than them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree. So, best luck to them. Hopefully they get it sorted anyway. They are looking into getting it done. And, as I said, $2.5 for male professional football playing in England, Championship, Premier League, it's nothing to them. But for these girls, it is
huge. Yeah.
It is huge for them until the women's game gets to where it has to. And football in Ireland. And hopefully we're all heading into the right direction. So, Nick, we're going to talk a little bit about pre-season. We've kind of overrun a little bit. First bit of business. Seamus Coleman signed a brand new contract today. Contract extension. I think it was a year contract extension, was it?
Yeah, year contract extension. Yeah.
I mean, 60 grand, money, very well spent. So well done, Seamus. He's probably going to be on the coaching staff there, and obviously Rafa's given him the. Should look at him there, Rafa. He looks delighted, and
so he should be. So he
absolutely should be.
Our best professional of the last 10 years or so. Yeah, by a country mile. Yeah.
He's a leader. He's a fantastic player, and he's a lovely guy as well. I've spoken to him a couple of times. Really, really nice guy. So, Nick,
like if all our players had his mentality, we'd be qualifying for tournaments. But unfortunately, they don't. Yeah,
we would absolutely. So, Nick, we're going to do a little bit of a roundup of the pre-season stuff at the moment. So, just got a couple of goals to share. This isn't actually an Irish international, but I got to share this one. This one's from the League of Ireland. From the give us a little talk about this one, Nick. The one we're going to. Who scored this one?
So this is Glenn McCauley, formerly of Liverpool, formerly of Shelburne. I won't hold that against him. And joined Athlone Town the day before this goal, and was told half an hour before this game that he was going to play. He's on a hat trick, and then he manages to do this.
I think Athlone just have to try and pump this ball forward and try and get something. So we're just going to run forward. McCauley tries to hit one from long range. Over! What a goal! Glenn McCauley! What a goal! This is just unbelievable.
If you think, I mean, that is pretty spectacular. If you think that one is good, folks, if you think that one is good, have a look at this net buster here from Ryan Johansson.
Tiene cerquita Suso, se la pega con velcro a la bota. Suso a la frontal para Ryan Johansson. Johansson puede disparar con la zurda, le pega. Gol.
Oh, did you see that one, Nick? Did you see it? I tore through the net, that one did. I mean,
how good is it, though, to see young Irish lads playing abroad? Well, I know England's abroad, isn't it? But I mean, playing in La Liga. Yeah, I was born there. You lived there. Yeah. Still abroad. There, yeah. Still abroad. But how good is it to see a young lad playing for Sevilla and scoring? Because he's getting a run. He's getting a run of games. He's doing well with them. Conor Noss as well. Azumaldo McNulty with Wolfsburg. It's been a really good pre-season for young Irish lads, because we've had a bit of a dip in the last year, haven't we? But it's looking good.
It's coming good now. I actually have it. Let's have a look at this one. Speaking of Conor Noss, this is a lovely finish.
Yeah, Noss is one of those I'm excited about, actually, because we don't really have a number 10, do we? Like a kind of out and out number 10, and I know he kind of plays as a centre forward. He's played a little bit deeper for the 21s, but I think he's going to come into that position if he keeps going. But the thing is, these lads have momentum coming into the start of the season, and even the likes of Andrew Omabamdele, Adam Ida have a little bit of momentum coming into the Premier League season. Nathan Collins as well for Burnley. So there's a lot of lads getting game time. Armstrong Okoflex as well scored there for West Ham last week. Connor Coventry's been playing excellently. Like, apparently he's going to be in the first team next season. Now, we've heard that every season for the last 2 or 3 years, but it was the same with Josh Cullen, wasn't it? He was going to be part of the first team and he wasn't. But if you look at Coventry and if you look at Okoflex, there's some very good young players having a really, really good pre-season, and that's only going to bode well for September, isn't it? Because you never know, some of these lads could be wild cards for the qualifiers.
Well, this is it, Jack, speaking of number 10, is Jack Byrne, got another 45 minutes there yesterday as well for Nicosia. So, yeah, it's coming well. It's coming along very nicely, and it really, really is fantastic.
And then Mark Travers, of course, Gavin Kilkenny, who's an excellent player. I don't know how Gavin Kilkenny isn't getting games for Bournemouth, because he's an excellent player. Like, he really, and another guy who could play in that number 10 role. Michael Obafemi as well. I think he scored a goal a couple of days ago, got a couple of assists
as well.
Set Shane Long up. There was somebody else. Jeff Hendrick scored today, scored against the mighty Rotherham, your favourite.
Header, wasn't it, as well? Boom.
Header as well, yeah. And Conor Hourihan's getting a little bit of a run for Villa. Thought he was going. So, look, it's been a really, really positive pre-season. And as you said, Travers, Asmir Begovic is gone now, isn't he, to Everton from Bournemouth. So, yeah, I mean, I think maybe 2 seasons ago, we did see a lot of young Irish lads getting debuts for first team clubs at pre-season, and some of them broke through. Troy Parrott broke through, didn't he, at Spurs? I know he only played 1 or 2 games and so on, but Obafemi as well was another, and Aaron Connolly. So it always bodes well when they do have a good pre-season, and most importantly for the older lads, the likes of Hourihan, the likes of Hendrick. Like, there's only going to be about 3 weeks of domestic football before the qualifiers. So if they're hitting a bit of form, even if it's in pre-season, it doesn't matter. It's still a bit of confidence, isn't it? They still go to bed after scoring a goal, delighted with themselves. So it's been a good one. It's been a good one. And just, every day, like, whether it be on different media outlets, whether it be on social media or whatever, there seems to always be another young Irish lad. Tyreek Wright, Aston Villa, Kenny. Our Kenny, not Stephen Kenny, but our Kenny McCoy, of course. He scored for Aston Villa, I think, yesterday. So every day there seems to be positive news regarding an Irish player in this pre-season. But I have to say now, David, I said this to you off air, but if I see another footballer say minutes in the tank on Instagram, I'm actually going to, I don't know, I'm going to get the urge to, like, order an oil tank or something. But if I see another post saying minutes in the tank, Jesus Christ,
it's not more like, original. Do you prefer the do you prefer the Brendan Rodgers analogy, oxygen? These minutes are like oxygen to these young players.
Jesus, yeah. But yeah, it's just the same post, isn't it? Just a picture of them saying minutes in the tank.
Yeah.
But look, but I mean, every single day there's something to do with an Irish player, something positive to do with an Irish player pre-season. Even, like, I mean, I know this is maybe irrelevant, but like Darren Randolph getting a bit of game time for West Ham. Now, he did make a mistake, but after the game, all the Celtic fans wanted him to sign because their 2 goalkeepers are rubbish. But it's now the one negative thing I would say about pre-season is Celtic. So we have a few young lads there. We've Jonathan Afolabi, we've Leo Connor, Barry Coffey's after joining Cork City today on loan, and we have Luke O'Connell. Yeah. And none of them are getting a look in. And look, new manager there. I don't know how to say his name, the Australian. And there's a few lads, like there's a guy, I can't remember his first name, but Ralston, the right back for Celtic. And, I watched him in that game against West Ham and he was awful. And then you've Leo O'Connor, who's already got a senior cap for Ireland. He's looked really, really assured anytime he's played for Tranmere. He can play right across the back 4. He's a really, really good player, and he's not going to look in. Now, we're not looking at these lads at training, so we don't know what's going on. But it's really, really disappointed that none of the young Celtic lads. Of course, Armstrong Okoflex just up and left to West Ham, and he scored against Celtic, in his first game back. So that's a little bit of a concerning one, because O'Connor and Connell in particular,
I've never seen
really, really good players.
Anytime Connell has played for the Celtic team is actually always done well. And, I mean, he went from being this close to being involved in Mick's squad for Gibraltar in the first game in 2019. He actually, Mick said, was going to bring him because he liked him. So I don't know what's going on. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes, if anything.
Because, I mean, even he went to Queen of the South. He went to Queen of the South for the second half of the season up in Scotland, and he was phenomenal. Like, he got a load of assists, scored a couple of goals. They got promoted. It looked like he was going to break in because he was playing first team football with Bolton, and then he left to go and play for Celtic and potentially play first team football. Was breaking into the senior international team. So,
and it just hasn't worked.
Yeah, so it's strange. So, I mean, I don't know who it was. Yeah, Law, I can't remember his first name, but I don't know anyone's first name today. But Lol, the young Irish lad who was with Watford, he got the Young Player of the Year, and he signed for Celtic last week. And I was thinking it's a bit of a graveyard. Like Afolabi as well. I thought he had plenty of momentum.
Preston North End of Scotland.
Celtic. Yeah, and it's a club that's capitulating, and it doesn't look like a good place to be a young player. Even Dembele, is it Kwamoko Dembele, the young Scottish/English winger? I mean, he's not even getting a look in, and he was considered one of the best young players in Britain. So that's a bit of a concern. But apart from that, it's been hugely positive and a really, really good preseason for Irish players, thankfully.
Absolutely. Hashtag future is bright. I always get a lot of stick with that, but I'm going to stick with it anyway. Well, that's all we have time for this week. Thank you very much for your comments, getting involved. Nick, thank you very much as always. Please get that computer replaced. And as I said again, please, I am poor. Buy my stuff. Buy these prints. They're good. Nick, I don't give them away. Nick, I even made Nick buy one. Nick, tell me, what would you like?
It was great. You even threw a lock of your hair in with yours, so it was great. I've got it. I can't see it now, but it's in the corner, and I've one in my office in work, and it's beautiful. Yeah,
they're really good. Stuff. Lovely.
They are good quality. Really lovely matted finish. But they are lovely. They are really, really nice. I'm not just saying that to get David a dinner. But they are great.
And that's where you can get them, lansdowneroad.ie shop. We are actually looking to get some t-shirts done as well. That will be coming soon. But yeah, so we're doing really well. We have a comment. Thank you, Barner. That's wonderful. Thank you. And thank you for the chat. And back to my flogging stuff again. lansdowneroad.ie shop, please. Feed me. And that's all we have time for. Nick, we are going off to record right now. Noel King's 10 years Ireland manager, aren't we? The second we get off this, we're going to do that, and we're going to have that ready. When are we going to have that ready, Nick? When will we have Noel King ready?
We'll have it out for Manager Monday. So this is our little, like, we always take a little break in between each era, and I know, like, we've done like final verdicts. We did a final verdict of Brian Kerr, and we did like an aftermath of Steve Staunton. But our little halftime show, let's say, between Trapattoni and Martin O'Neill is going to be Noel King. Not just, I mean, it won't just be Noel King's 2 games in charge. It's going to be Noel King and his, how we got on with the women's team, how we got on with the 21s, and how we got on with the player identification role. So yeah, it's going to be a glowing report. And then we've something else. Oh, we also have another little treat for you, and this will probably be released before Noel King, but it's going to be the Trapattoni Fallout 11. So
11, that's what we were doing tonight. Yeah. Sorry, not the Conspiracy Theory podcast. Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Conspiracy Theory. Yeah, Conspiracy Theory. Will make sure you have a heavy dinner before you watch that, or before you listen to that. But we'll be talking about a starting 11 of players that Giovanni Trapattoni fell out with, plus a couple of subs. Believe it or not.
Probably enough for a World Cup bench there, whole 11. All right. Well, I'm looking forward to that. Anyway, everybody listening, thank you very much for joining us on this week. We'll be back again next week. Keep your comments coming, good and bad. Just be interested. Fantastic. Have a lovely weekend, and we'll talk to you again next week. Bye bye.